In this video, Katia will show you how to make a gift box that looks exactly like a vintage postbox. Hello, I am Tina from Victoria Designs, and if you like snail mail and if you like Christmas, we have the perfect kit for you, the Santa's Mail Kit. It's a very Christmassy kit focused on mail and letters. And Katia has created a tutorial with these printables to create a gift box that looks exactly like an old-fashioned postbox. Or you can just use it as a decor piece. Katia has a lot of fun tutorials and crafts on her channel. To check those out, there's a link in the description. Like always, you can use our other kits or other scrapbook paper to make this project. And you can use the printables from the Santa's Mail Kit to make many other crafts and journals. You can also make a journal to put in the box. All the measurements you need will appear on the screen, and if you would also like a handy PDF with all the measurements neatly in a row, you can opt in via the link in the description to get that PDF. For more information about these beautiful printables, you can discover the kits in my Etsy shop, the link is below as well. And now, here's Katia. Have fun!
Okay, so here's a quick look at what we're going to be making today. So, as you can see, it's a little old-fashioned post box with the domed top, the kind that you would have against the wall, and then the postman would come and put the mail in there, and then normally there'd be like a thing that opened, and ours opens from over here and goes like that. So you've got some imagery on the inside, and you can put a present in there. And then this doesn't actually open, it's just a false letter thing. And then the domed top. And then I've got some of the cut aparts and the pocket on the back. So if you're gifting this to someone, you could put your envelope with your greeting and everything in there, and then the present inside. And then that's what the top looks like. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so let me show you the paper collection that we're going to be working with. So we've got some beautiful bits that you can cut apart. I think I'm going to use this pocket on the back side of our box. And some words and other things that you can cut out. Beautiful envelope. Some file folders, and then I just printed out a few of the large journaling cards or the junk journal pages. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them or not, but I really like the imagery, so I might cut some apart and use them as decoration. And then here are some of the full sheet imagery. Okay, now the collection is huge. I only printed out minimal pages because I wasn't sure how much I would need to decorate. And then I've printed out 3 of this particular paper because I think I'm going to use this on the inside of the box. And then I've printed out 5 of this blue one because I think I'm going to use the blue on the whole outside of the box, and then use the cut aparts and the other imagery to decorate it. And then I've also printed out 4 of the border strips because I want to use this border strip and this one in particular. Okay, so the materials you will need, of course you'll need your patterned paper. You will need some very neutral cardstock that we're going to be using to kind of put the box together. You're just going to be seeing the corners of it, but I want this to be a very vintage feel, so I'm using craft cardstock, very neutral color. You'll be able to see the very corner of whatever color it is you use. You can use dark blue if you like. If you're going with the blue theme, that would also work really well. So up to you what color cardstock you'll need. You'll need a few sheets because we're going to be using quite a few strips of the cardstock. You will need your paper trimmer, score tape, and or wet adhesive. I like to use them in conjunction, so I'll be using both. This is just a basic Elmer's glue and nothing fancy. You'll need quite a bit of chipboard because the entire thing is going to be constructed of chipboard. I use a fairly heavy weight chipboard. I'd say it's probably about 3 millimeters thick. If you don't have that, that's fine. You can just collect some cereal and cracker boxes and glue them together until you have something that feels quite sturdy. We will need some kind of brown ink and an ink dauber. I'm using Distress Oxide in Vintage Photo because I just want to kind of make this look a little bit, you know, it's supposed to look vintage, so I want it to look a little bit old. And then you'll need your scoreboard with a scoring tool and a bone folder and some scissors. And I think that's everything. If I've forgotten anything, I'll let you know along the way, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Oh, and a ruler. Ruler. Okay, great. I'll put all this away and let's get going. I did just realize that I forgot to say ATG gun if you have one for adhering the patterned paper. If you don't have one of these, that's fine. You can just use score tape or glue, but this is what I'll be using. Okay, so first we are going to construct the basic box, okay? And then we'll have like an ornamental top, a rounded top over top of that. So we're just gonna do the basic box first. So you need a back, which is 8 inches by 8 inches. I'll put all of the measurements on the screen down here somewhere in both inches and centimeters. So we need a back and a front. So those are both 8 by 8 inches. And then we'll need the top and the bottom, and they measure 5 inches by 8 inches. So 2 of those, 5 inches by 8 inches. Then we'll need the 2 sides of the box, which are 4 3/4 inches by 7 7/8, so 2 of those. And then we're going to have one front flap on the door of the box is going to open, so the front of the box will open so you can put like a present in there. And in order to keep it closed, we're going to have a little front flap that's going to attach on the side via magnets. So we'll have the front door and then this little flap will go around the side of the box with magnets. So this is 2 inches by 8 inches. Okay, so get all of those pieces cut. Those are all out of the heavyweight chipboard. Okay, and then we are going to need a bunch of cardstock strips. So you're going to need 6 strips that measure 2 inches by 8 inches, so 6 of those. And then you'll need 14 strips that measure 2 1/8 inches by 8 inches. Okay, so get all of those cut, and then we'll also need a bunch of smaller ones. I believe it's 10. Okay, so before we construct our box, I want to score our strips. So get your scoreboard. So all of the strips that are 2 inches wide, we're going to score those right down the center at 1. Okay, so all of them scored at 1. Okay, the ones that are 2 1/8 inches wide, we're going to score at 1 and 1 1/8 because we need just a little gusset there. So 1 and 1 1/8. Okay, so score all of the ones that are 2 1/8 at 1 and 1/8. I'm going to finish doing this and I will come right back. And I'll come back with all of these already folded. So score and crease all of these fold lines. I'll do a couple with you so you can see how I'm doing it. Okay, but I'll be right back. I just realized that I forgot 2 other things that we need. Well, I guess this is actually optional. A little bit of Tyvek, like this. So this is the one end of a Tyvek envelope that I've already cut into. I'll be using this to help attach our door of the box. It'll make sense as you see it, just because it's going to be swinging open and closed, open and closed, so I wanted to reinforce it. So if you don't have Tyvek, it's not the end of the world. But if you do have Tyvek, then I recommend using it when we get to the door part. And also, I forgot that we do need a few magnets. 4 should be enough. This is just to hold the flap of the box closed. If you don't want to use magnets, you can use a different closure if you so desire. You do you, boo. But yeah, magnets. I think I've got everything now. What can I say? Menopause brain fog is a thing, and forgetting is happening a lot these days. Okay, so back to our strips. So we've got our 2 1/8 by 8 strips. So for these, so we've got our 2 score lines there, and we're going to crease each one of those score lines. So you see how there's like an indent where we've scored, so you're going to fold away from that indent. So turning the indent inside out, I guess. In scrapbooking or mini album making, we call it a valley and a mountain. So we're turning the valley into a mountain, basically. Okay, so it's going to look like that with like a little kind of flat ridge. So for these ones, we are going to put score tape on the inside of the fold. Okay, and I've already got that done for all of the rest of them. Okay, so they're folding this way. The score tape is on the inside. And then for the other ones, the ones that just have a single score line, so just going to, again, so this is the indent, so we're folding away from the indent, okay? Give it a good crease with your bone folder. And then for these ones, the score tape is going to go on the outside of the fold, okay? That part is important. All right, so I've already got the rest of those already done. So the fold like that, and the score tape is on the outside. Okay, and now for the smaller ones, I said 10, but I realized that I didn't tell you how many of each. So we've got 6 that are 2 inches by 5 inches. So they're scored the same way as the 2 by 8 inches with the single score line at 1 inch, so right down the middle. And they're folded the same way, and again with the score tape on the outside. And then you'll need 4 of the 2 1/8 by 5. So they're scored the same way at 1 and 1 1/8, and the score tape is on the inside. So they're done the same way as the longer ones. The only difference is that these are all 5 inches long instead of 8 inches long. So 4 of the 2 1/8 and 6 of the shorter ones, the 2 inch ones. Okay, let's start constructing, shall we? So let's get the bottom of our box. So the bottom is one of the pieces that is 5 inches by 8 inches. And then we'll take the back of the box, which is one of the 8 by 8 inch pieces. So the back piece is going to sit right on top of the very, very edge of the bottom piece. Okay, so we're going to put 4 of our 8 by 2 inch pieces. So get 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to miter the corners of each of these just a hair. Okay, so we're just going to take off like just a little bit at each corner, like just a tiny bit. This will just give us a cleaner finish. Okay, so all 4 of those we're going to just cut off a little bit at each end. Okay, and throughout this whole project, like once we start actually putting the pieces together, dry fit these first before you actually adhere it, because people's width of like their thickness of chipboard is probably going to be a little bit different depending on where you are and what you have access to. So I just want to make sure that everything fits really, really well. These ones should be fine because they're the first ones, and we know that this is 8 and these are 8, so that should be great. Okay, so I'm removing just half of the tape backing from one of these, adding just a little bit of adhesive to it. I like to use the score tape and wet adhesive in conjunction. It just makes it so much stronger. And we're going to put this right on the very edge of our back piece. So you've got a piece with this flap still unadhered. Okay, we're going to go all the way around with all 4 of these, doing the same thing. So just take off half. And then we're going to put this one at the top. Right at the very edge of the chipboard. Okay, and we're going to end up with 4 pieces that are sticking up like this. Okay? And then the side pieces need to go in just 1/8 of an inch to give us room for our actual sides. They're going to sit right in there, okay? Okay, so this is what you should have. So you've got 4 cardstock pieces all the way around your bottom of your box. The 2 side pieces have just 1/8 of an inch of chipboard showing, and the top and the bottom are right against the edge of the chipboard. Okay, now this is going to sit up like this, and it's going to go right on top of the bottom of the box, and then the sides are going to attach to these, and the top is going to attach to this, and we'll move forward from there. So for now, we're just going to attach it to the bottom, and then we're going to put on our 2 sides. Okay, so remove the other half of the score tape from the bottom bit here, add some wet adhesive, and this is going to go right on top of your box bottom at the very, very edge. Okay, and now we're going to take one of our strips that has the double score line, because right now this is still has a lot of give to it. So we're going to use one of these guys, the ones with the double score. We're going to give it a tiny bit of a miter. Okay, and it's going to go on the outside of the box to give this a little bit more stability. So we're going to take off 1/2 of our tape backing, add some wet adhesive, and this is going to go at the bottom, the very, very bottom of the box. Okay, and then we're going to remove the rest of the tape backing. Add some wet adhesive. Okay, and now put this up. Put the back of the box up straight and then fold this up. Okay, so then we'll have some stability coming from the inside of the box and the outside of the box. Okay, and then see how that just stands upright now. Okay, so now that we've got our bottom piece on, we're going to put our sides on. So we're going to first put 2 of the short strips with just the single score line here and here. Again, we're going to miter just a tiny bit. I guess you could miter all of them all at once if that is an easier process for you. I'm just kind of doing it as I go so I have the chance to dry fit, and if I need to take off extra, I can kind of do it then. So these are going to go about 1/8 of an inch in from the edge, and see, mine are just a titch long, so I am gonna miter a little bit more. Okay, that's better, because I can't see a lot of the numbers on my trimmer anymore. I need to get a new trimmer. It's just been so used that most of the little increments have been just kind of scratched away. Okay, so these are going to go 1/8 of an inch in from the edge, and they're going to sit up like that. Here, let me just move it up like this. So there'll be 1/8 of an inch in from the edge, just like these side ones here, and they'll be meeting it like that, and then our side piece is going to go right here. Okay, so let's put those 2 on. Hope everybody's with me so far. Trying to explain best I can so that it makes sense to everybody. Okay. On the inside of this little flap, so removing half the backing, adding some wet adhesive, putting it on the inside flap here, like inside of this one. Okay, fabulous. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. All right, so now we are going to remove the tape backing from these ones and the sides. Okay, and let these adhere to each other in the corner here. We'll just do one at a time. And we will add our wet adhesive there. Okay, so it looks like that. It's adhered to each other right here. And then our side is just going to fit right in there. It should hit the edge of the chipboard. We've left just enough for it to do so. So I think it's easier if I stand it up like this. Okay, and just push on those to make sure that everything is adhered as it should be. Okay, just like that. And now we're going to take 2 of the pieces that have the double score line, and the 8-inch one is going to go right here along the corner, and then we're going to have a 5-inch one at the bottom. So again, do a double check just to make sure that everything seems to be lining up. Miter the corners just a little bit. If you forget to miter a corner, it's not a big deal. It's that part is just an aesthetic thing. Okay, so this one is going to go along the corner. Sorry, I have to do it. It's hard to hold it up and show you as I'm doing it, but hopefully you're getting a decent view here of what's happening. Okay, and then we're going to take one of the 5-inch ones that has the double score line, and it's going to go at the bottom. Okay, again, do a dry fit just to make sure that nothing is poking out where it shouldn't. And remove the tape backing, add your wet adhesive. Okay, and it's going to go at the bottom. So that double score line should make it so that it has enough room to go kind of around the curve. Okay, so make sure that everything is well adhered, and now you've got half box. So now we're going to do the same process on this side. Okay? So remove the tape backing here. Okay, and then let these adhere just in this bottom corner right down here, so the side one is over top of this bottom one. Okay, now we're going to add our wet adhesive. Grab your other side. And push on the inside of those strips to make sure that is adhered. And then we'll add our outside strips. Okay, so I've got my 8-inch outside strip here. I'm going to put my wet adhesive on it, and then this is going to go on this corner. And then this smaller 5-inch one will go on the bottom. We're starting to get something that resembles a box. Okay, so there we go so far. All right, now we're going to do the door, and then we'll do the top part. Okay, so the door is the other 8 by 8 inch piece, okay? So I'm gonna have my door so that it swings open. The open part will be on the right. If you'd prefer, you could do it the opposite direction, but I'm opening it like most doors would open, okay? So you can decide which way you prefer. So this is where we want some Tyvek. And again, this is optional, but I am on 2 of the strips that have the double score line, the 2 and an 1/8 inch strips. I am going to put Tyvek on the inside of them where the score tape is now. and then reapply score tape. Okay, so I'm going to do that real quick, and I'll be right back. So if you don't have Tyvek, you don't have to do this. Other things that would work if you don't have Tyvek and you want to reinforce it, bookbinder's tape would work. Any kind of thin material that is tear resistant would work great. Okay, so I've got 2 of those pieces with Tyvek on the back, and then I've put more score tape on there. So I'm going to remove one side of the tape backing, add some wet adhesive, and put it on the side of my box. There we go. I know that this is a slightly different color paper. I just ran out of my craft. So if you're wondering, that's why it's a different color, no other reason. And then we're going to adhere the door to the other half. And we want to make sure that we leave a little bit of a space so that this has room to open, okay? Here, I'll turn it on its side. Maybe that will be easier for you to see. Okay, so the door is going on to that, but I'm leaving about 1/4 inch space. Now make sure that it is touching the base of the box here. It's going to sit right in, like inside that lip of the box. Let me do it this way. Okay, and now we're going to take another one of these and put it on the other side in the same place to reinforce it. So this is one of the ones with the double score line. And we're just matching it up to the one that is on the outside. So this one's just going to go on the inside, but in the same spot. Okay, so now you've got your door. So the door will sit, see how it's flush with the top, or with the bottom. So it's sitting on top of this little lip. Now we're going to add our little flap to this. Okay, so we're going to use one of these. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to use 2 of the pieces that have the double score tape and leave a little space so that it has room to move. Okay, so this is going on the outside. And then the flap is going. Am I still in frame here? Let's see. Okay, so we're leaving a little bit of space in between the flap and the door itself. And then the other piece will go on the opposite side. Now I know the score lines are actually going in the wrong direction for these 2 pieces, but that's okay. Make it, you be the boss of the paper. Don't let the paper be the boss of you. You tell it which direction it wants to go. Okay, so this will wrap around and magnetize right here. And now we're going to put our top on. So we're going to add 2 of the 5-inch strips, and then our box top is going to sit on top of that. So these ones are just the single score line. Okay, so this is what we have at the moment. Everybody with me so far? All right, so now we're gonna remove the tape backing from all 4 of these. Okay, we're gonna let these long ones adhere in the corners to the short ones. Oh, I just waved to somebody outside and I didn't realize that I bumped the camera. Oopsies. Okay, so that, are we still crooked? We're still crooked. Okay, there we go. We're not drunk, people. We're not drunk. We're just a little cockeyed for a second. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay, this is what we should have so far. We're gonna add wet adhesive here, and then our box top is going to sit right on top. Okay, and now we're gonna do some outside strips. So we'll have one going at the back. We'll open this back up here. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry, folks. My bad. Gosh, Katia. We don't want a strip here because that's where our door is. I'm so sorry, folks. Let's get rid of that one strip. That's not supposed to be there. Shoot. Okay. Let's try that again, shall we? That's why I told myself I was going to keep the door open so I would not do that. Okay, let's try putting this box top on again. It should only be 3 sides. I got distractimated. Okay, now we're gonna put the back and then the 2 sides here. This box top will overhang just slightly. That is on purpose. Okay, so let's get these pieces on so that we have a solid box top. Okay, again, I'm mitering these 3 pieces just a little bit at an angle. It's just so we don't have like tons of bulk on each corner. Okay, so I'm gonna do the 2 sides here. Okay, so this is one corner. Okay, and here's the other side here. And don't worry, we're gonna cover all the rough edges of the chipboard, so don't panic if you think your box isn't looking pretty right now. We're gonna make it pretty. Okay, and this one is going at on the back side of the box here at the top. I'm sorry if I confused you guys, that was my bad. I'm only human. Okay. Crisis averted, all good. We've got a basic box. Okay. All right, fabulous. Okay, so that's our basic box. All right, and this is where you would put the present. So we're gonna set this aside for now, and we are going to work on our box top, the domed part of it that makes it look more like a old-fashioned postal box. Okay, so for the front and back curved part, we are going to need 2 pieces of chipboard that measure 3 inches by 8 inches. Okay, and to make the curve, we're going to take our ruler and we're going to make a mark at, make a mark at 4 and draw a line to divide it down the middle. Okay? Actually, I'm going to bring you in a little bit so you can see this better. Okay, and then we are going to divide it into 3 sections. So make a mark at 1 inch and at 2 inches and draw lines going lengthwise. All of this will be covered up, so don't worry. Okay, so you've got 2 horizontal lines, 1 vertical line. Okay, you're gonna make a little mark right at the very top center, right there. And then you're gonna make 2 little marks right at the very corners. Okay, and then along the top horizontal line, you are going to measure 2.5 inches from the center line and make a mark. And then you're going to measure 2.5 inches from the center line going the opposite direction and make a mark. And then move down to the lower line and make a mark at 3.5 inches from the center line. And same on the other side. Okay, so you've got marks here, 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 and here. So we're going to follow those marks to make a curve. Okay? So you want it to look like that. All right, so try your best. If you have some like a plate that is about this size, or some kind of template that you could use, or even one of those, like what is it called? Not protractor. What are those things called for making circles? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, however you have to get there, try to make something that looks like that. And then cut along this curved line and then trace it to get your second piece. Because you want your 2 pieces, the back and the front, to be the same. Okay, so use this on your other piece and trace it to get the exact same curvature. And then before we adhere these, you want to also use this template to cut your patterned paper. I'm going to be using that blue that I showed you in the beginning. So cut 2 pieces of the blue, if you wanted to do it the same as me, of this, so you have the exact, you don't have to try and fit it later while you're cutting the paper. So trace these now. Okay, so I'm gonna do exactly that. take my own advice. I don't want to forget to do this. Okay, so you should have 2 pieces now that look like this and have them traced out on your pattern paper. But before we adhere them, I just want to cover up this chipboard edge, and we might as well just do all the edges at the same time. 4 of your double scored 8-inch pieces. We are going to put these along the rough edges of the chipboard just to make them prettier. I've already mitered the corners just slightly on these. So take the tape backing off both sides, and this one's going to go here. Well, I might have mitered a little bit too much off that one. That's all right. Okay, so we're going to do this edge, the top of the door. Okay, and the side edge and this side edge. Oh, we need one for the bottom as well, so we need 2 more. I miscounted how many we needed, apparently. I don't think I have any more cardstock this color. Okay, let me figure something out on that. I'm just gonna do this side edge here. This is the flap that I'm doing, the side edge of the flap. Okay, so we still need 2 more 8-inch ones for these bottom edges, and then 2 tiny ones for the top and bottom of the flap here. I just have to find some chipboard or some cardstock to do the bottom ones, so hang on just a sec. Okay, so I had just enough cardstock to do those 2 little cover edges at the bottom. Now I'm just gonna do 2 little ones right here, like that, at the top and at the bottom. And then we've got all of our edges covered. Okay, so 1 there, and then 1 on the bottom edge. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to take 2 more of our strips that have the double score lines. Gonna miter just a little bit again. Okay, now we're going to have to put some score tape on one side of the back that's going to adhere down onto the top of our box. So I'm going to add some score tape just on the one side. Okay, so remove that tape backing. Add some wet adhesive. Okay, and this is going to go on the front edge of our box. And then we've got one that's going to go on the back edge of our box. Okay, and now we're going to remove the tape backing from the bit that's like standing up. So this part right here. Add some wet adhesive. And place one of our curved bits. Okay, and then we're going to do the same for this one here, the front one. Okay, and then we're going to put 2 pieces on the inside to make them stand upright like that. So we have this extra piece of adhesive that wasn't actually necessary, but that's all right. Extra adhesive does not hurt. Okay, so this is going to go like this, just to reinforce this so it stands up. Okay, and then we will need to trim off if there's any cardstock kind of overhanging, just trim that off. Make it a curved edge again. Okay, I'm going to do the same on this side. Okay, and then trim off the little corners here. Okay, that is that. So you should have something that looks like this right now. Okay, and now we've got one last piece to put on, which is the piece that's going to cover over these and dome it. So this is the trickiest part of it, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna make it work. So we need a piece of chipboard that is 5 inches by 10.5 inches. We're gonna get our our trimmer, and we're gonna trim this at 3/4 inch intervals, but just once, okay? We don't want to cut all the way through. We just want it to be scored enough that we can get it to bend. So at least on mine, with the thickness of my chipboard, if I just go once, it's not going to cut all the way through it. So this is going to depend on how thick your chipboard is. So just kind of test it out. If cutting it this way, it cuts all the way through it, then maybe just use a craft knife or something like that, because you want it to cut just partially through it. Okay, so that is going to allow this enough give that it will bend. So I'm just going to see how on the back side it hasn't cut through all the way. So it's still attached on the back side, but on the front side it's allowing it to curve. Okay, sorry folks, I realized that I said 10.5, it should be 11, not 10.5. Okay, so this piece that we're folding over is 11. I'll make sure to write that down. You should have already seen it. The last bit is not going to be 3/4 inch, that's okay. We just need this to bend. So if the increments aren't perfect all the way along, that's totally fine. Okay, so we're going to use our last couple 5-inch strips, and we're going to put them on either side here. Just move this out of the way. Okay, dry fit them first. For some reason this one is a little bit longer than this one. Okay, you don't have to miter these ones because you're not going to see them. Okay, so we're going to remove the tape backing from half of each one of them, and they are going to go with the score tape side that still has the backing on it facing out, just like that, and same on this side. Okay, put that right on the edge. Okay, and this part is going to adhere. So we're going to start at one end, have it adhere to this here, adhere to this here, and it'll go over these and attach over here. Okay, we're going to need to put a bead of glue on the very edge pieces of these domed shapes. So I'm going to do that now. And we will put a few strips of cardstock just to kind of reinforce this once it's on. This is the only real tricky part of this tutorial. It will take a little bit of maneuvering to get this into place where we want it. Okay, so I'm removing the tape backing from this side here. I'm gonna do this side at the same time, just so when I get here I don't have to take my hands off this piece. Okay, so I'm gonna start over here and push this. I'm pushing this against it, and now kind of holding these in, because you want both of these domed shapes to be underneath this. I don't know how I can show you best. So it's basically going to go over like this. And you want to push onto those domed shapes. So it's going to be, you're just going to kind of have to hold this against these edges, and we are going to add some cardstock. I'm just going to open this door here. We are going to add some cardstock to try and reinforce this once the glue has set a little bit. Okay, adjust it as needed and just hold it there until the glue sets enough that you can kind of let it go. Okay, and when you feel you can let go of it, we're going to add just a piece of flat cardstock that's going to go to kind of cover this seam. So about 1.5 inches or so by 5 inches. And we'll do one on either side. Okay, so one of them is going to go on this side to cover up, oh shoot, cover up the seam. I did the wrong side of the paper. That's all right. We're gonna have a multi-brown going on here, which is okay because a lot of it is gonna be covered up with ink. Okay, so that's gonna cover that seam, and then we'll do the same on the other side over here. Just to make sure the door is open first. Okay, so make sure that it is still where it's supposed to be, and then we'll attach it with these. Okay, and if you feel like you need a little bit of extra security, you can add some tiny little strips here, or even just score tape. It will be covered up with the patterned paper. I might add just a few pieces of score tape just to make sure that it is good. We're going to be adding like some decor to this and stuff, so this edge won't be completely visible like it is now. This is just to make sure that the glue has a chance to dry. Okay, so there is our basic post box. So now I just want to add some magnets to this flap here to keep the door closed. I'm going to do 3 sets just to make sure that it stays closed. I'll do one at the top, one at the bottom, and one in the middle. Okay, so remove those bits of score tape, and then we're going to add 3 sets of magnets. So 2 magnets magnetized together on top of each little bit of score tape here. Oops. Okay, and then I'm going to put another little bit of score tape on top of those. Remove that backing and then close up our door. They're so strong that they keep coming back off. So I'm going to put some score tape over top to keep them in place. Let's try again. Okay, there's that one. And the middle one. There's quite a few layers of paper now, so it's this one's the middle one isn't reaching quite as well as I'd like, but I'm gonna keep it there anyway. All right. Okay, it does the job. Perfect. All right, so now I'm going to take my ink and ink dauber and I'm gonna ink every edge of this box inside and out. Okay, and then we can start adding our pattern paper and then do the last of our decorating, which is going to be adding a whole bunch of 1/2-inch chipboard strips in places just for decoration. You'll see when we get there. I'm gonna try and make it as looking like an old metal box as possible. But for now, I'm literally going to be going over all of the edges with my ink because I want this to have a very vintage feel. And this will also help all the papers that I've used, since I used many different shades of brown. It's going to help them to all look the same. And no one will ever know. Except everyone who's watching right now. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. The inside isn't as important because I know it's gonna be hard to get into the inside corners, so don't fret too much about that. I'm gonna try and get in there, but most of it's kind of gonna be in shadow, so you won't see it as much. So I'll be back when I am finished inking all of these edges. Okay, so I've got all the edges of my box all inked up and I've started to put on a few pieces of the patterned paper. Okay, and I have done that part inside. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how I'm inking the patterned paper. So I've cut the blue pieces for the outside. And I'm going pretty heavy on the ink and I've just got a mat down to protect my work surface and I'm just going around in a circle all the way around the edge because I really want them to look pretty distressed. You definitely don't have to do this, but I just want it to look very old and vintagey, so that's what I'm doing. And then we'll just start putting the pieces on. So I haven't given the measurements for the pattern paper just because it's very easy. You just measure the area that you want to cover and then cut your patterned paper 1/4 of an inch smaller on both lengthwise and widthwise. Okay, just so you have a little bit of the edge showing. So yeah, you can do that. And then I'll come back and show you the real decorating part of things. That's where the fun begins. So yeah, so just ink up your pieces and just make them just a tiny bit smaller than the area that you are covering. And you have the measurements for the pieces that we've put together, so just go 1/4 inch smaller in both directions and you should be all good. Okay, so I'll be back as soon as I've got my blue pieces on. I did just want to mention one last thing about putting the pattern paper on. For this top part, I'm going to be putting score tape on each of these sections just to be sure that it is really well adhered. That's my process, but if you can do it however you want, but it's just going to be one solid sheet that's going to go all the way across. So I just want to make sure that it really stays down quite well. And yeah, Okay, so I'll be back to show you the next step after I've got this on. Okay, so now it's time to use the border strips that I was talking about in the beginning of the video to start decorating our box. So my plan is to use the border strips on pieces of chipboard and kind of decorate areas of the box with them. So I've got a whole bunch of pieces of chipboard that are 1/2 inch wide. So you'll have 2 long ones that are going to go on the top of the box like that, and they are 10.5 inches. And then I've got 2 that are 5 inches. They're gonna go on the sides here. And then I'm gonna make kind of a square shape on the front. So I've got 2 that are 8 inches, and then 2 that are 6 5/8, and they're gonna go like that. So I'm going to cover them with those border strips and then put them around like that to make a little kind of just decorate it a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to glue those strips onto here or onto my chipboard pieces and then ink up the very edges of the chipboard, and then I'll come back and put them on with you. Okay, and I just wanted to show you that I've cut the border strips just a little bit wider than the actual border that I want. There's about 1/8 of an inch or so on either side. And then I'm just putting some score tape onto the back of the chipboard. And then laying it onto my piece of border strip in the center. And then taking my score tape and overhanging the chipboard a little bit. Okay, so it's like that. And then I'm kind of taking my nail and just pushing the score tape against the edge of the chipboard so that the cardstock itself has adhesive on it. Just because it's such a little amount and I want to wrap it around the edge of the chipboard. So that's one way to do it. If you'd prefer, it is easier just to cut the strip and put it on the chipboard without having to worry about covering the edges. So your choice on how you want to do it. But this is how I'm going to do it. And then I'm just going to fold up the edges like that and push them down onto the back side of the chipboard. And that way you've got paper all the way around except for the very ends. The ends I'll just ink up really heavily so you can't see that. Okay, so then on the, I know it's really hard to see in this light, but on the edges we've got paper as well as on the front. Okay, so I'm going to do all of those like that. Okay, so I've got the 4 on the front of the box, and now let's work on the top of the box. So with these long ones, I've just taken my hand and just kind of gone over it like this to help it to bend. And so once you get it to a bend, we're going to add some wet adhesive and put it on the curve of the top of the box here. And we're going to have it so that it comes out just a little bit from the edge of the box, just to kind of hide where these 2 pieces meet. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the bit of score tape I have on the back and add some wet adhesive. Okay, and you're going to have to probably hold this for a couple minutes here just to make sure that it stays on. Make sure I've got it even with the other one. Okay, so just hold it there for a second and let the adhesive dry just a little bit. Okay, and then we'll put the 2 smaller ones right underneath them on the sides. Okay, so there's one, and then we'll do the other side. And just make sure that where you're putting these strips doesn't interfere with the door being able to open. Now I'm going to use, I have one last border strip, so I'm just going to take the strip itself and cut it exact and lay it across the front part here. Just going to ink it up first. Okay, so that will kind of cover up that very edge of the chipboard strips there. Okay, now I also want to put a little kind of mailbox slot, because what good is a mailbox if it doesn't have a slot for your letters, right? So I've just taken some chipboard and cut out a little frame on my paper trimmer. It can be whatever size you want, as long as it can fit on the front. Mine is just over 6 inches by 2 inches, and then the opening is 1 inch. Okay, so I'm going to put that on there, but first I want there to be like just some kind of background, you know, so it doesn't just blend in. So I'm going to put that on like that. Okay, so I've already got some adhesive back here. Okay, lay this onto the back like that, and then I'll just use my ATG gun to adhere that onto our box. I might put a tiny bit of wet adhesive just to make sure that it stays. Okay, so that's going to go on the front of our box. Make sure it's right side up. Just like that. And then I might put a couple of cut aparts on there as well. Maybe this guy here. Just going to trim off this edge. So this I just cut out of one of the journaling pages. Okay, so I'm just going to put that guy in the corner there. All right. And I have this random metal piece. I've had it for years. I don't actually remember where I picked it up, but I was thinking I'd put that at the top. So continue decorating your box however you like. I'm probably just going to add a few more of the cut aparts. I think I'll put that on one of the sides. Maybe a couple of these little guys. I might use the word mailbox. All right, and if you want, you could put some twine or something right against here. If you still feel like you can see too much of that, I might end up doing that. I might put some twine there. That might look nice. And yeah, just decorate your box in any other way that you like. I did put something on the side here. I'm going to use that envelope wherever it is, or the pocket. I think I'll put this on the back side, and then if someone wants to put a card in there, if they are actually using this as a gift box, they can put a card in there. And might use another border strip here. So just kind of decorate it however you would like to do so, but that is your basic construction of the box. And I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial, and it's a kind of a cool way to give a gift, because it can also be used as a home decor piece during Christmas times, so the recipient can keep it and use it for years to come. All right, so let's put that down there, and I might just decorate this a little bit more. Maybe I'll put some bows here. Yeah, maybe some bows. Let's do that. Yeah, that's cute. Sure, why not? Okay, I'll put some bows here, and yeah, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon with more tutorials. Yay, mailbox. Bye.